Hey, so this is the third in my series of videos trying to sort of dig into the announcement that was made this past week about the new digital center. So video one really looked at the state of digital government in UK. What is the current state and where does it come from? The second video is what's the vision? What's the dream? What's the aspiration of this government for how to transform the UK's digital presence and the experience that people have of government in the UK. This video is all about how they're going to do it. And at the center of it is an organization that's finding a new life, which is the Government Digital Service, or GDS, which has been around for quite some time, but is getting a bit of a renaissance. So let's dig into it. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so driving this change is Government Digital Service, and importantly, there is a lot of strong political leadership for this group. Peter Kyle obviously being at the center of it, but it really being overseen by a digital interministerial group consisting of Peter Kyle, of course, but also the Chief Secretary to the Treasury and chaired by the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. So this gives it some political weight, which is important because you need that political strength to really move forward a lot of these changes and also sustain it. It's going to be run by the Chief Digital Officer, who is currently Joanna Davidson, but Joanna Davidson is in this role in an interim basis, so I suspect they'll probably be announcing someone to take this role on in a more permanent basis in the coming months. So stay tuned for that. Importantly, this sits within the Department of Science, Information, Innovation, and Technology, and is bringing together the original GDS along with Central Digital and Data Office, which had been hived off from GDS several years ago. So they're bringing them back together. And then combining it with I.AI, which is the innovation group that came out of 10 Downing Street, as well as the Geospatial Commission and parts of Responsible Tech Adoption Unit, all being brought together into this new branded organization of Government Digital Service. They kind of talk about sort of having four key elements to it. So first off, it being magnetic. So it's a home of specialists, of expertise, really becoming the center of all things digital for the UK government. It being a catalyst, so it's enabling all sorts of things outside of just DCIT, the larger organization as well. It's a catalyst for new things, new actions towards the missions that are at the center of what the UK government's doing right now. It's strategic, so it's ensuring that the use of digital and public sector drive efficiency and productivity gains. Again, efficiency and productivity are this theme that you're hearing come up again and again and again, and of course helping accelerate economic growth. And then collegiate, and this is I think important because the original GDS had a lot of amazing things about it that have inspired us, but one of the criticisms that's oftentimes been leveled against this original GDS was it was a bit exclusive and a bit combative with the rest of government and with the traditional system. This one, right from the start, they want it being seen as working in partnership with colleagues across the public sector and beyond. They also talk a lot about working with the private sector and with civil society as well. So it's meant to be a place of collaboration. And the other thing that's interesting about this is they explicitly talk about local councils, police forces, and arm's length bodies, or ALBs as they call them here. Okay, so I want to dive into some of the things they talk about here. This part I found really interesting. They have this whole section that talks about what they want this new group to feel like. Feel like for the public sector, feel like for suppliers, and feel like for civil society. And at first I'm like, this is weird. You don't usually have whole sections of major government documents talking about feelings. But the more I read it, the more I actually really found it quite a compelling way of talking about it. Because feelings actually do matter. They influence perception and how we experience and take things on. And if you want to drive change, you need to make sure that people feel good about that experience and are engaged in part of this. So, for example, they talk about feelings of the public sector. They want people to feel like there's a great clarity on what this group is about. They feel an elevated. They feel that digital and data profession is being elevated. That there is confidence to work in the open. That people celebrate. That there's a lot of celebration of success, better support and tools to deliver, easier ways to join up the workforce across the organization, and more focus on addressing risk. I mean, fundamentally, the key theme is they just want people to feel good about digital and data. And I think this is part of a reaction that digital and data has kind of been something that a lot of people in government are struggling with and don't necessarily, they're either embarrassed that they don't know more about digital and data, or they just feel somewhat combative and belittled by the digital and data movement. And so this is a chance to sort of flip the script and create more positivity around it. Likewise, this idea of, again, there's a big focus throughout this whole entire document, not just on government, but on the whole private sector that works with government, both in terms of contractors and suppliers, but also in terms of the tech industry more broadly. And I think, again, the key theme here is that this is a group that you can do work with. This is your friend, this is your ally, is good. And then finally, civil society and local communities. Again, this whole idea that this is a group that you should feel that you can work with, that they are an open door and a listening ear, and really counter the whole idea of the black box that is government. So, next steps. They really talk about GDS focusing on 5 bold, transparent Kickstarter initiatives. 5 initiatives. All right, let's go through them 5. So the first one is this idea of a beta gov.uk app and gov.uk wallet. This, I think, is really fundamental to what digital government service delivery looks like in 2025. It's almost like a rehashing of the portal idea. They used to be like you'll have a one government portal that you go into, except with the digital wallet, you can have it anywhere. You can have it on your phone, you can have it on your computer. There's all different places you can have it, and it's just more advanced technology than the portal stuff that was a decade ago. So that's, I think, so approach number 1. Approach number 2 is really about getting people to work more, piloting improvements in how we can better manage long-term health conditions or disabilities. So I thought this was interesting. Healthcare has come up again and again and again as a need the government needs to be better at doing stuff around. The third one is pilot gov.uk chat. This is another interesting one. One of the key use cases for AI, particularly the LLMs, the large language models that we have nowadays, is this superpowered chat. So chatbots have been around forever. I shouldn't say forever, but they've been around for a while. But most of them are pretty crappy. But LLMs are quite fantastic in chatbot functioning. And I think one of the first governments to really play around with this is Singapore. But the UK wants to get in on this game too. And I think this could be a real game changer in terms of helping people navigate the mess and complexity that is government. So this will be a really interesting one to keep an eye on. The fourth one is launching a new AI accelerator upskilling program. Again, this is really about bringing more AI expertise into government, across the whole entire government. And this is, again, where GDS is trying to be a catalyst for expertise across all departments. And this is a way that they're hoping to do that. And then launching a new cross-government vulnerability scanning service. This gets into the whole cybersecurity theme that you've heard again and again throughout this document. Really trying to identify areas of weakness within the system and building responses to that. A couple other areas that they really emphasize that GDS is going to focus in on in the first 6 months to a year of its existence. One is this idea of funding. So how is government that's spending all this money going to be using this money more effectively? So part of it's strategic funding. Part of it is also focusing on shifting how the government actually funds things. So whether it's our big picture collective, how does government use this money, but also more specifically, what are more effective ways and mechanisms for government spending money on digital? The flip side then, of course, is something like the Digital Commercial Center of Excellence, which is really about making it easier for the private sector to engage with government and beyond the big players. So really getting to small, medium enterprises, entrepreneurs. They really want to sort of catalyze this. Part of that's also going to be a lot of research. So I think a lot of what you're going to see from GDS in the first 6 months since coming out of this announcement is going to be research to sort of lay the groundwork for next steps. Research on understanding what are the user needs for businesses in the UK, for example. There's another really interesting piece around working with local government. They've kind of alluded to the need to work with local government more effectively, but what that looks like specifically is unclear. And so what's clear here is that they're going to be doing a lot of research to map that out. And notably, Thea Blackwell, who is the Chief Digital Officer for London and highly respected, is actually going to be doing a stint with GDS to really help them map this out. I think this is fascinating because there's been an ongoing conversation in this space around this idea of a local GDS. Theo, I actually think when I talked with him about this, has a bit of a different vision around this. Instead of centralizing it in one place, Theo's idea is really supporting centers of expertise across the system instead of having a central location. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of those conversations. But this is also going to be about data standards and taxonomies to better allow for this interoperability and coordination. And of course, metrics. Metrics comes out again oftentimes in this report. And something to keep an eye on is that this is all going to culminate in a new government digital and AI roadmap in the summer. So a lot of what the next 6 months are is going to be research to lay out a roadmap. Okay, so that is sort of the overview. They go into more detail here. I think this part I do actually want to dive into. So a couple key pieces, gov.uk, which is sort of like this championship program that they've had from the early days of GDS. They're going to continue to support that. This one login, which is going to be foundational to get to the UK, the digital wallet I talked about earlier. You need that login to access the digital wallet. Common components. This is the idea that there are key things that most services and departments need. Forms being one, pay is another, notify is a third. They're going to continue to develop out these foundational components that all services use and need. And the idea is if you build common components that everybody can use, that's a huge burden off of frontline service deliveries that otherwise would have to go and procure or build their own options. So it saves a ton of money, but that also enables, if everybody's using the same components, it allows for a lot more interoperability of service experience. Incubating AI products, we've already talked about that. Delivering a centralized infrastructure for verifiable digital credentials. This is where the wallet piece comes in. And of course, the National Data Library, which is something that's been talked about a lot as well. This piece is probably of the most interest to me. Communities of practice are so essential in terms of helping foster centers of expertise and sharing of knowledge within a system. It also provides a place of support for practitioners. And the UK government has a very interesting history with communities of practice. It kind of goes up, ebbs and flows. There's sometimes when they invest in it and support it, and then they tend to step away. And so now clearly we're going back into a period of investment, which is exciting for people like myself who play in the community of practice space. And I'm very excited to see this investment. The Service Transformation Team, which is a specific team designed to support the missions work that's happening and support the interconnectivity of services tied to these missions. Spending review is a big thing that's going to be happening over the next couple months. So GDS is going to be obviously involved in that. And really starting to build in place these leadership bodies, such as the Functional Leadership Group for Chief Digital Officers and Information Officers. And then continuing to maintain guidance and best practices. This is something that the original GDS did a really good job with their service manual. This body is going to take it and continue to support it. Yeah, so those are the key things I wanted to highlight. Hopefully this is interesting. I have one more video I'm going to come up, which is going to be sort of just like a high-level overview of everything, as well as sort of maybe some deeper analysis, what I am taking away from this, as well as what other people I've been following and reading are taking away from this. So stay tuned for video number 4.